So if you're ever going to be putting some new trims around your doors, maybe you're updating the style, maybe the old ones had some damage, when you take off the old casings, you're going to be left with this nasty, horrible ridge of caulking that you're going to need to get off before you can put the new trims on. So I'm going to show you the best way to get that done. So you've got the old door trims off, you've pulled out all the nails, and just a couple of quick tips on that if it's something you haven't done before. To get the trims off, you first want to cut the caulking on both sides with a utility knife. And then the go-to tool to get these trims off is going to be one of these little Richards red bars, or something like a real slender bar that you can slip in there and then pry that off. And just keep an eye on the drywall side so that you're not going to tear the paper. Just watch it as you pry along, and if there's any spots, just recut it with the utility knife. Once you get all those off, then to pull out the old nails, take your bar again, and then any kind of a plier will work. I prefer water pump pliers, but linemen's, side cutters, pincher pliers, anything will work. Take the bar, that's going to protect the wood and the drywall, and then just pry all the nails out that way. Now it's time to remove the pesky ridges of caulking. There's a couple tools that you want to have for that. You want to have a couple of scrapers, one that is good for pushing and one that is better for scraping. That's just a pulling direction. The Richards Red, this side of it here is actually amazing for that operation. Now the reason you want a couple of different tools here is you can use the pushing scraper on both sides and it will work okay on the woodwork, but the scraping is going to work considerably better. But where the push scraper comes in is with this ridge along the drywall side. With this ridge out here, you're never going to get it 100%. So don't even try. You just want to knock the ridge off a little bit. And then I recommend going with a little bit of a wider casing if you're going to be going with new casings. And then because the casing is going to be thicker on this side, you can always afford to put a little more caulking in there to cover up any of the ugliness over here. That being said, with the push scraper, you want to just knock this edge off just a tiny bit. And you always want to be going towards the door. Just if you start pushing this way, you're going to be likely to tear the paper. So just knock it off just a tiny bit. You do not want to get carried away. You'll never get it 100%. So just take your time. Come in towards the door. There we go. And yeah, you can see that it's not 100%. You'll never get it 100% unless you want to get into tearing the paper off and then mudding over it, which you do not want to do. Now I'm going to show you the scraping technique, and then there's one more step that you need to do before you're ready to put the new trims on that we will cover after this. So with the scraping bar, you can get actually quite a bit of pressure and leverage with this bar setup, and you just want to pull down. And you can see how fast that goes, and it just ends up taking off a little bit more of the ridge than what pushing the little putty knife will do. So yeah, it's a very simple technique. And then once you get that nice and scraped down with a couple of passes, grab some sandpaper. I like to use some 150 grit. Anything around there will be good. Fold it in half, just get yourself a square, and then just go around, and you want to just sand down that little paint ridge that's left behind. Just feather it out. You don't have to get too crazy. And then you're also just checking to see if there's any lumps that you may have missed. So give that a quick sand. So you're not going to need to spend a ton of time on that. You're just checking to see if there's any lumps left behind and feathering out that little paint edge that was still left. And hey, when it comes to putting the new casings on, if you've ever struggled with caulking, making a big mess out of it, you're going to want to check out this video right over here. You've pulled out all the nails. Now just a cuckle. You've pulled out all the nails. Just a cuckle. Cuckle. You've pulled out all the nails and just a couple of you're going to be left with what can only be described as poison.